Hey guys, Skybird here. Today I'm going to be bringing you the Man of Shadows himself, Makuta. This is based on the prototype slash movie reference, I believe, for the Makuta set that I think was found on an eBay auction some years ago, possibly last year. I honestly don't remember. I actually just discovered that this thing existed yesterday, and so I wanted to build my own version. There are a couple things that I definitely want to touch on this video, and the number one thing is this guy is very frail. He's not terribly flimsy, like he won't fall apart, but his legs, the way they're designed, are not great. They're super loose, and so standing him up is an absolute chore here. I now, as a disclaimer, I want to go ahead and get out of the way that I'm not specifically sure this is how it was built. It does look like, based on the picture of the reference model and the parts available for it, which it was kind of destroyed. So, just going on what I saw in the picture, and based on the concept art, I think this is correct. So the reason I say that is because these joints here, and I apologize for the squeaky chair, but these joints here are very weak. They're based around the Pohatu style handpiece or Toamata handpiece, and you guys probably know that that piece isn't really meant to hold up a lot of weight. It doesn't have as much friction as a standard ball joint or ball and socket. So because of that, these legs are very flimsy. If I picked them up, he'd be like spaghetti. They just kind of dangle. So aside from that, I did want to try and keep him as accurate as possible to the color scheme. Of course, I'm not going to paint the Vahi black. And I wanted to go ahead and mention that I used a standard Mata Picari on the top here rather than a Picari Nuva. Mostly because I'm not specifically sure how this would have worked alongside that Vahi. I've tried, mounting it backwards and mounting it forward, and I don't get anything that resembles the concept art, though in the parts lot from the eBay auction, apparently, that had the reference model, it includes a black painted Vahi and a Picari Nuva. It does not include original Picari, though I do believe they designed it around that, because based on the concept art, it really looks like a Picari on the top. Obviously, they took some liberties, but it definitely looks like a Picari. And some of the concept art even has the Vahi orange, and then some just doesn't. So maybe that's, someone coloring it in, of course. So let's go ahead and move this guy and get scared. As you can see, his legs, like I said, just dangle. They're very weak. The only reason he is able to stand is because the angle here prevents this leg from going any further forward or this leg from going any further backward. Otherwise, he would just collapse under any amount of weight. But as you can see here, his legs are not meant for anything at all whatsoever. Now, I've seen some people build him with the legs moved up, so basically just skipping this entire section and taking these legs and connecting them directly to the ball joint, which works better, but I don't think that it's accurate. Also, proportionally, it just looks weird because it makes his hips very wide, which obviously he has wide hips here as well, but they look a little more proportional with these longer legs. So that out of the way, I will go ahead and take those legs off so that they just don't become too much of a distraction, but let me go ahead and show those first. So the actual foot design, I really like. I did add this pin here, which I'm not certain was in the official reference model, and that's only because it prevents this piece from moving completely. Without that pin, there's a very subtle amount of movement here. I don't think it matters all that much, but I figured anything I could do to give this just a bit more structural stability was probably a good idea. Some other things I could potentially do as well is, oh, I just realized I put in a red axle there instead of a black one. Anyway, is I could potentially attach something to one of these attachment points and to this to structurally support the leg. I'm not sure exactly what I would do, and I of course want to try and keep it as original to the model as I can. So I didn't do that here, but that is definitely an option, and probably one that I would take in the future, just to make maybe only one of the ball joints, or neither ball joint even, move. There are still ball joints in the hips themselves, so you'll see here that there's a ball joint, one on each side, which is kind of nice. It's obviously something we didn't get in the original Makuta. You can kind of see why. The actual body build is definitely interesting. So I do want to go out of the way and say that In the official pictures, it does look like the head can move side to side. I, however, mounted it with an axle here because the Vahi itself, the way I have it attached, and I'm not sure it's accurate, but the way I did it, the Vahi would not be able to move because it's not on the same axis as the Picari itself. So because of that, I just mounted the Picari directly with an axle, so it's not going to move side to side. It's not going to really move up and down. I mean, you can, but there's no point in doing it. But that way you get the Vahi here and the Picari lined up correctly, which I think does look better. Aside from that, the entire front is mounted to this ball joint here. So that's a little bit strange, but it does kind of, if you do it just right, click in behind these white 5.5 long specialized axle pieces, so you can still kind of lock it in place, and I think it works out well enough. It's definitely not something Lego would have done officially, because it's not enough of a click, and I don't think it's intentional by any means. I think it's just the geometry of the parts kind of line up if you do things right, which I definitely don't think is practical. So aside from that, as you could see there, the Bodybuild itself is pretty straightforward. It shares some similarities with the original Makuta, being that it has the actual Toa Nuva armor here on the back and the Nuva shoulder pad pieces on the back as well. However, the actual body itself is, in the way, the actual body itself is narrower by 2 studs or 2 length. I'm not sure what's called that. So that does mean that these pieces end up looking a little more gappy and a little less fluid than the official model did. Aside from that, oh man, I just pulled the Vahi off. I should also mention that the way I have the Vahi mounted is just through that stud right there, that stud hole, which is not the most secure connection in the world. So again, it's one reason I would not prefer moving the head independently from the rest of the model. Aside from that, the arms are pretty straightforward, just using the black Rakshi back piece from the Mantax set from 2007. It does look like in the official pictures of the reference model that all of these pieces are prototyped, so they're not the official versions yet. They're all smooth and black or gray, or potentially gunmetal, it's hard to tell. And all of these pieces are painted black over like a clear resin of some kind. It's very clear that those pieces are fragile, as many of them in the pictures are broken. But, you know, that just is a way for Lego to learn how to do specific things and make it work, is, you know, print the parts out of cheaper material or weaker material and see where it fails. And yeah, so I'm all for that. But yeah, as you can see here, those pieces don't quite line up. That's what I was trying to get at. Anyway, the hands are actually kind of cool. They're just using borax teeth in silver, and they close up around that axle hole there, so you can actually make it hold something. I'm trying to get that on frame. But yeah, it closes up right around that axle hole, so you can actually make him hold a sword. And he does have an official, like, scythe type weapon. I didn't bother building it here, mostly because I already spent quite a decent amount of time on this already. But yeah, the body itself is fine. There are things about this I like and things about this I don't like. But I will say that if there was a good way to balance this design with the original Makuta that we ended up seeing released in 2003, I think you'd have something really good on your hand. If I had to choose one of the two that I like better, I still think I'd prefer the set model. Yes, the legs aren't as posable, but I think overall he just looks very well-rounded. I like these claws a lot, although they don't have a lot of posability, since there's no wrist articulation of any kind. And I think at the end of the day, the silver Evoke pieces also worked really well. So that still works in the main model. Of course, I like the moving head of the official model. The Pohatu claw on the back here kind of finishes things up nicely on the original model as well. So I think I do prefer the original model overall, but there are definitely some things I like about this model as well. So in terms of build, I may try and post something in terms of instructions here shortly. I think there's still a few things I want to touch up on, which may not pay homage to the reference model itself, but just to kind of make this more practical of a build and make it more, I guess, structurally stable. Mostly the legs and potentially the Vahi as well, as it doesn't actually sit in this slot here all too well. So it's pretty tough. I actually was going to use the gold Vahi originally, but my gold Vahi is a little more beat up than this, and the back connection point, the little circular connection point that connects to a Mata head, is pretty worn down on that one, so it wouldn't quite fit in there in any decent way. But on here, this works out well enough. So yeah, it definitely looks good. If you can get yourself a black Vahi or are willing to paint one of your extras if you have one, or if you get one from like Socket Ball or something, I think it'd work really well on this set. It's not perfectly, centered here, but it's good enough. And lastly, I think, again, this piece up here would be black, not gray, but I think it all works out well enough. Color scheme wise, colors are balanced pretty well. They're not perfect, I don't think. I do, again, like the official model's color scheme and color balance just a bit better than this. Although this still looks very good. I like the little bit of extra silver on the official model with like the tube running through. Obviously, the official one is more stable and just more practical as a shelf-bought Lego item. This one, there's definitely a lot of things that are way too finicky, if it was going to come out of a box like this. So as I said, obviously it would have a custom mask of some kind, and I guess I can try and see what it looks like with the Kirkan on it. So just go ahead and throw that on here. This is the first time me seeing this personally. And if it'll go in, why is that not going in? Interesting. I'm not sure why that's not. It's just, okay, there it goes. That head specifically. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. It works out well enough. It fits, well. See, even this really reminds me of the Vahi and Bakari. It's got the swoops on each side. And again, in the concept art, the Vahi-like design of the front mask doesn't have like the holes and stuff in the front, or the venting on that center there. Or even the cutouts around the eyes and stuff. So I definitely think that's where they drew inspiration, because the Bakari has those 3 slots on the top. You got the 3 slots here. Got the slots on the side as well, and even that mouth kind of hole. It really does resemble a Bakari quite a lot. So I'm perfectly okay with that. And I definitely think that it would have been the Mata Bakari that they would have used as the reference and not the Bakari Nuva. So I'm assuming that just means that whoever owned this prototype model potentially lost the... I could be wrong. It could be the Bakari Nuva for sure, and I did include it here. But like I said, I've tried mounting it, and there's just no way that it really looks good. And I haven't seen the official prototype put together. It's only been pictures of it kind of destroyed. So, yeah, I definitely think that it's the original Bakari and not the Bakari Nuva. But, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Yeah, so that said, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I really hope you guys liked it. I did spend a decent chunk of time yesterday and today making this up. I do like the top body quite a lot. I think if you were to make these legs just connect directly to the torso, those would actually look pretty good. Let me try that real quick. Just while I'm on video, I might as well, right? Go ahead and take these ball pieces out of here. And go ahead and take this one. So, oh, there we go. Okay. Now I think we'll have issues here because of the angles and stuff that everything runs into. But, yeah, because these legs look a little bit... I don't know. They're not too bad. They're not too bad. I also just think that the ball joints that the Rakshi head pieces have a little bit less friction anyway. Actually, yeah, I quite like that. I think that looks really nice. Proportionally, that's really good. You still get the ball joints, so you still get the added bit of articulation. That actually looks nice. That actually looks really nice. I like that a lot. So the versions that I've seen other people make of this have connected the ball joint that I just took out of the body down here, which leaves this ball joint exposed, but it also pushes the hips way wide. That I just don't like it. So yeah, I think I'd opt for this build for sure. I think this would be specifically the build that I would post online. I'd probably make one change just up here to make sure that these pieces can go around those axles. And that's basically it. Other than that, the model is stable. Posability wise, the legs hold the model up, which I'm surprised by. Even leaning far forward like this is really good. This is the first time I'm trying this, so I'm definitely shocked seeing it all on camera. Now that would fall over, but it's not the hips failing, it's the actual gravity of it. So yeah, I actually like this. I think the hips work really well here. In terms of size compared to the original Makuta, I think it's a bit taller. This looks really good. Yeah, this looks really good. And like I said, if I was going to make any changes, I would just change out probably the width of these pieces or something here just to make sure that this central body doesn't move independent of the actual torso. All right, yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one. I had a lot of fun with this. Take care.